All right, Matty, welcome back to the Ask Matty Show, special edition show, Thanksgiving edition. Matty, how are you feeling?
I'm doing great. We got a little bit of a short week for us here at Crypto Charge this week, but we always want to make sure we get the Ask Matty Show packed into the week, regardless of what's coming up.
Absolutely, Matty. You guys are saying I'm saying Matty too much, but it's just ever since Matty, I gave Matty had that nickname, but I solidified it, so I have to say it now. But in all seriousness, here, team, we have something very special for you guys. This upcoming November 30th at 5 p.m., we are giving you guys something free. Matty, would you like to go into that? Because I know that is your cup of tea. You and Dan will be doing that. Dan Habib, can you share a little bit about that event?
Sure. So on the 30th, 5 p.m. Pacific, that'll be 8 p.m. if you guys are on the East Coast over there. We're going to be doing a live webinar. We're going to be talking a lot about the macro environment, talking about the money supply, interest rates, all these different things that affect the economy, and kind of giving you guys dialed in on that. We're going to be talking about kind of the long-term picture for Bitcoin, altcoins, kind of what we're looking to invest in, what our expectations are for this upcoming cycle,
yes.
And then giving you guys a few of those tools and potentially answering some questions at the end live on the webinar, so you don't have to wait till next week for the Ask Matty Show. You guys could potentially get some of your questions answered right there on the webinar. So make sure you guys check that out. We'll be dropping a link shortly for you guys to sign up on that and be a part of the webinar.
Not shortly, Matty. We're going to do it now. We're going to do it in the description. We will put it in the pinned comment below. It'll be the first link for you to sign up. Just going to ask for your name and email, and then you can sign up. If you cannot, I know that's going to be the first question. What if I can't make it? Sign up anyways. What if you can make it? What happens?
Right.
It might come up in your schedule that you can make it. And if you utterly cannot make it, sign up anyways. And, maybe shoot me an email and I will get you a early link. We might get it on the internet later this month or maybe early next year. Who knows? But you're going to want to stay tuned for this. It's going to be a very special event. You guys have heard Matty talk, but you also got Dan with Matty there, the data bros. They call themselves that. But them two together, you can never go wrong. If you're young, if you're old, you will get something good out of that. And that is my guarantee. If you're even deaf, I will send you the transcript. It doesn't matter. Just please sign up for this. We want a lot of people to sign up for this. Obviously, we're promoting Crypto Charge through this. But it's very informative, this content you're about to get from these two individuals. So definitely do that. In the comment section down below, we have our shop link. But team, if you're not going to do anything else, please subscribe here. You will see us every single week. But now, Matty, for this special edition, we're going to be doing a tier list. And you guys have loved the tier list. It won the polls on everything we posted it on. So we're going to do that for you guys today. So thank Matty, gracious Matty over here. So we're going to do the tier list. And to give credit, who do we got? Lifted, bro, 498, part 3. That's what we're going to do today, Matty. Are you ready?
Let's get started.
All right, Matty, we're at the tier list. We got a lot of cryptos down here. Some of them aren't our favorites. I think they're going to be a lot of bad, and I don't think people are going to receive that well. But before we get into this tier list here, what is your thought process for placing these on this chart here?
Yeah, so when I look at any asset, I try to, consider the fundamentals of the actual project itself, try to consider, maybe some of the technical setups, if I'm super privy to those technical setups of, are we further back in the cycle? Has this already elevated, several X's in this retracement so far, right? And then, kind of just any other aspects that have been public knowledge, right, that we've learned about through Twitter or other sources that may have changed the way that we view the long-term health of some of these assets. So those are some of the criteria that I consider. So we can kind of start it off with the first pick that we've got here, and that's going to be VeChain. VeChain already has a great technical setup. I've covered this before on the Ask Matty show as well as on the Crypto Charge live show many times, showing that there's really enormous potential upside opportunity. We've looked at a lot of examples, including Cadena and Polkadot, having an initial illiquidity wicks, crashing to multiple new lows, and then going in and setting or filling those wicks at a later date in the future. So I think VeChain first and foremost has a great technical setup. VeChain is hyper focused on supply chain management and authenticity USD when it comes to things like luxury goods, or if we're tracking, sushi from, hatchery to store, right? If there's a bad batch, we're able to identify those things more quickly. They have a really great mechanism with their gas token versus the VeChain token. It's a very good balance of tokenomics. So overall, I like VeChain a lot. It's something in my portfolio. It doesn't represent, the size-wise of something like Casper or XRP or even API3 or Zcash, but it does represent a good portion of my portfolio, at least, being in my top 10. And again, I'm always looking for those rotational opportunities. I think VeChain could potentially provide me, one of those multi-X moves that could happen very quickly, and I could potentially pop that into something else. So VeChain for me is actually going to go in the amazing tier. Again, I don't think there's a whole lot out there right now that's like strictly hyper-focused on supply chain. So maybe it's a little bit of a niche vertical, but it's not one of those verticals where I see there's huge barriers like other industries we've talked about, where like, you're going to have all this pushback from people who don't want logistics to move forward, right? You can take your existing, logistics software and lay it over the VeChain rails and very easily integrate that, right? So I think that there's a lesser barrier, strong fundamentals, good technical setup. So I think VeChain goes in the amazing tier. Next up, though, we have Polkadot. Polkadot is an interoperability solution, and really the two biggest competitors in the interoperability space right now are going to be Polkadot and Cosmos. Atom is the ticker for Cosmos. It's all the way over there, next sandwiched between Uniswap and Litecoin. We're not doing Cosmos today, but I think Polkadot is a very good ecosystem. There's lots of parachains that have been built off of the Polkadot ecosystem to satiate, particular DeFi pools or other protocols or solutions that are a little bit more specific to a particular industry or enterprise. I think that Polkadot's definitely going to set new highs this cycle. It's one of the laggards actually right now out of some of the older solutions that did really well in the last cycle, right? I think that we're looking at what happened with Chainlink, right? Chainlink moved sideways and didn't really make any meaningful moves, just kind of stayed in a solid channel for a long time, finally got a very nice pop, over a 2x move in a very short period of time. I think Polkadot is set for a very similar move here. I'd probably want to throw Polkadot right on the line between good and amazing. But I think because Cosmos is also such a strong competitor, it's not necessarily kind of a standalone within its own vertical. So I'm going to put Polkadot in the good tier. Sweet. So we're building out a list here. Hope you guys like these tier lists so far. It's always, difficult to satiate everybody's, desired placement on these lists. But again, I try to view everything through as an objective lens as humanly possible. There's always going to be a little bit of subjectivity with that. But we're going to try to place these as reasonably as possible. Next up, we're going to do Avalanche. Ticker for that is AVAX. I actually really like Avalanche as well as the DeFi protocols that are surrounding Avalanche. One of the big benefits to something like AVAX is it runs on a DAG, a directed acyclic graph. So a lot of people, when they talk about crypto, they associate the word crypto with blockchain, and that's not necessarily true, right? Crypto doesn't equal blockchain. Crypto does not equal money. And those are two very big things that I think people need to take away with that. So when you look at crypto more through the lens of being DLT, distributed ledger technology, and that there's a lot of different consensus mechanisms, and some of them are more efficient and faster than others, AVAX absolutely takes the cake compared to even some of the proof of stake models out there when it comes to TPS, total transactions per second. Now, AVAX has lost the very advantageous technical setup that we've had because it exploded, right? Which is not a bad thing. If you're an AVAX holder, absolutely killing it. Glad that you are, making some money in this. AVAX is not something I had in my portfolio, but I think the AVAX protocol, I think the AVAX ecosystem is something that is thriving. It continues to thrive. Joe, one of the DeFi protocols that runs off of AVAX, is also pumping very hard right now with it. And I think as a DAG, it's one of the very, very big competitors. The three really big ones that are on my radar right now are going to be Avalanche, Phantom, and then Constellation Network. And obviously they're all kind of in different spots technical wise. Now Constellation Network, I think, has more upside from current if we were just going to kind of go out of all the DAGs. But because AVAX just at this very time doesn't have the perfect technical setup that I'm looking for, I'm going to put it in the good category. However, if we had been recording this show 2.5, 3 weeks ago, I would have probably put it in the amazing category because of the technical upside that was available. Moving on to our next topic here, Cronos, or CRO, which is an exchange token from crypto.com. And this is going to go in the bad tier for me. And I have to do this because I saw what happened with exchange tokens, right? And it's just generally not a good idea. And it's not that I'm, opposed to people having equity in exchanges, right? We already have the ability right now, if I want to own a share of Bank of America or Chase or any of these other, institutions, I can get a share in that. Crypto.com and some of these other exchanges were trying to go about it a different way. Hey, if you own a certain amount of these tokens, then you get better cashback rewards on your card, and we'll give you potentially staking rewards on certain things, based on different exchange tokens. But I've just seen too many of these exchange tokens fall. I think there's huge regulatory hurdles when it comes to these exchange tokens, because at the end of the day, when you look at the utility of something like Cronos, right? Like, what is the real benefit, right? You're going to get discounts on the exchange by using the Cronos tokens. You're going to potentially get, a little bit higher yield on those debit card cashback purchases with your crypto.com card. But if I was the SEC, I have so many avenues to poke holes in the Cronos token and potentially deflate that value very, very quickly. So personally, for me, exchange tokens are a no-no. If we get some kind of clarity on that later in the future, where they're like, hey, this is perfectly fine as long as you're issuing this way, and that you issue these attestation reports that say this much money is being held, and these tokens do actually have value outside of just being a token that runs within the crypto.com ecosystem. Yeah, great. But for now, I'm too fearful with everything that I've seen, especially with FTT and all these other tokens that were exchange-based tokens that are either delisted or lost a lot of value, and I think that there's a lot of uncertainty around that. So for now, I would stay away. I'm going to leave that in the bad tier. I don't think you guys would ever hear me take a stable coin into a tier list, but I honestly am just so tired of the FUD and people not doing any research. Obviously, we should always be skeptical. We should always be cautious. We should always be doing as much research as possible. But when we talk about Tether, the Tether FUD has been going on for way too long. Both Tether and USDC, I believe, are very, very good tokens. I actually have zero issues with them. If you look at the most recent attestation reports from Tether, they did a ridiculous amount of profit over the last 2 quarters. So that means that not only were they able to do all their one-for-one backing, they never did any of this bullshit like we saw with the Luna situation, putting, volatile assets as a large portion of the total backed assets, right? They're instead saying, hey, we're always going to have this one-to-one backing with cash and cash equivalents, meaning cash, treasury bonds, maybe some metals, things of that nature, right? But not like these highly volatile asset classes. And when you look at what Tether has done, attestation report rise, right? So these are third-party auditors who look at the reports of what's out there, what's minted, what's actually out there reserve-wise, and then what they did profit-wise, right? It's all good and valid, right? So we can all poke holes and say this YouTuber says this and this YouTuber says this. I've been hearing Tether's going to collapse for 6.5 freaking years, guys. Still hasn't happened. So Tether goes in the perfect tier because there's absolutely nothing wrong with Tether right now. You can run it over any other rail that you want to. There's so many different networks you can put stablecoins over. Hell, if we wanted to, we could put USDC in the same category right now. And the reason that we would put these stablecoins in the perfect categories because they're the backbone of the crypto ecosystem. When you have more money in stablecoins and stablecoins that people can actually rely on and trust and understand that their companies backing them are good stewards, and that there's these third-party reports that show that they're not only treading water but also doing well and being able to add additional things with their profits to their balance sheet that are not involved in the backing, right? That makes me very bullish on the overall crypto ecosystem long term. So you guys can go ahead and put in the comments why you think I'm full of it with Tether, but I want some data. I want you guys to prove to me why you think Tether's a bad idea, because we've just seen nothing but proof and evidence that Tether is in a very good spot. Next token that we're going to be talking about here is Decentraland. The ticker for this is MANA, M-A-N-A. And one of the things that I think I talked about this maybe on the previous episode, so I won't really go on about this too much, but I just want to touch on this again, is that with these gaming tokens, I think that we are going to have to be very, very cautious and treat them cycle by cycle, because I think that the metaverse space is young. I think the gaming sector, when it comes to crypto gaming, NFT gaming, all this stuff, it's very young. And we could easily see newer and more efficient rails produced that are able to potentially, facilitate some of these bigger games that people are actually playing today. So I would say Decentraland, even Gala, pretty much anything that's out there right now is probably good for this cycle, maybe another cycle, but I would absolutely be on the lookout for other competitors. So I'm going to put it in the good category for now. Again, I don't have anything bad to say about it. Actually, I just read a story last week about South Korea investing money into a company that is going to be building on the MANA rails, right? But I have also seen these pilots, start up, they put money into them, and then they fall flat on their face, right? So I think with gaming, we always just need to treat it cycle by cycle, and any of these shouldn't be, in my opinion, long-term holds. I think you should try to just capitalize on any of these each and every cycle. Last two that we're going to be looking at here, second to last is going to be HEX. HEX is going right in the bad tier. I don't really have to explain this too much. Richard Hart is currently in big trouble with the SEC right now. And it's still crazy that I just had to even take a gander into the HEX community on X, aka Twitter, just to kind of see what was happening, seeing if people are still on board, seeing if people are trashing the token, seeing if people are kind of just talking about selling their bags. And there's surprisingly a huge group of people that are just so ignorant and blind to the fact that this man took your money that was supposed to be in a CD style product, earning all his interest that you agreed to lock up for an egregious amount of time. Like, I would never even lock up my XRP for this amount of time. And I love XRP and I believe in the long-term future of XRP, but you guys gave a ridiculous amount of permission to have these tokens locked up for such little yield in the grand scheme of things. And Richard Hart stole that money and he bought Lambos and he bought all this dumb shit with it. And people are still backing HEX because BitBoy talked about it at some point, or this influencer talked about it at another point. And I still see some influencers telling us that, we're just buying into the FUD and it's just the bear market. It's not just the bear market. The fundamentals are glaringly, in a bad spot. So again, if you think that Richard Hart's the man and you think that he's going to bring this around and he's going to beat the SEC and he's going to be able to prove that he didn't commit a whole bunch of fraud, great, go for it. But I don't really see anything proprietary with HEX that's going to blow the rest of everything that we've talked about out of the water. Last thing that we're going to talk about here is going to be Uniswap. And Uniswap is a decentralized exchange, right? And I think that decentralized exchanges are always going to have a place within the crypto ecosystem because especially when you have, a smaller project, you want to launch it, you can't really afford to get it on a tier 1 exchange yet, or you don't really have those relationships yet because you're a smaller project. Having the ability to list or even access liquidity on some of these decentralized exchanges is a very valuable thing. Now, again, regulation is the biggest hurdle when it comes to all of DeFi, right? That's even why I'm sometimes skeptical about some of these DeFi protocols. Yes, it all sounds good and dandy, but what happens when the regulatory bodies come in and they pass some sweeping legislation that puts DeFi in a spot where a lot of these projects have to come into a very specific compliance that they're not able to come to, right? And that's sometimes the price you pay to be in early. Now, the flip side could also be true, right? And a lot of these are already in compliance and you picked a project that's highly compliant with the upcoming regulation. There's no way to potentially bet on what that's going to look like in the future, but those are some of the concerns and considerations I have when I look at anything that's decentralized. So I'm going to put Uniswap in the good tier. Overall, great protocol, has been a very hardy and well-served community as well as ecosystem for a lot of people, getting tokens that were at one point only available in DeFi protocols and now have moved into tier 1 protocols. And, at one point you were able to buy that at, a fraction of what it was listed before it was listed on a T1. So I definitely see the value in that. But this is kind of how I'd have it listed. It maybe surprises you guys if you guys would maybe reorder this differently. You think I'm full of it on some of this, drop it in the comments. Let me know where you think I made a mistake and I'd be happy to kind of hash it out with you guys and see where we can maybe draw some similarities.
Good stuff, Matty. Really good insight there. Anything to leave the team with before we close out here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very excited. Retracement wise right now, it's very nice to see a lot of altcoins waking up. Our Discord's very, very active right now because, folks are dusting off their wallets and moving things around and kind of getting their leverage trading stuff set back up because they were, taking a little break for it while the markets were down. And, I would hope that you guys are doing the same. Make sure you're getting your ducks in order. Make sure you guys have, some trading software. TradingView.com is having their Black Friday sale right now. So make sure you guys hop on that if you guys don't have that. Make sure you guys are looking into the deals on the cold storage stuff right now. There's a lot of opportunity to get some of the tools you guys need right now while we're in these holiday times to be prepared for this upcoming bull market. So I think the next 12 to 24 months is going to be very exciting. Hope you guys are using this time to get prepared.
All right, team, we're done here. See ya.